In just the last 90 days, the federal government has posted 6,513 newly proposed regulations. Our next guest says the administration is using federal regulations to rewrite laws and essentially go around Congress. He's joined 11 other states now to sue over one issue in particular. Texas Attorney General Greg Abbott also recently announced he is running for governor. He joins us now live from Austin. General, great to see you today. What is this lawsuit about?
Well, Shannon, this is outrageous what the Environmental Protection Agency is doing. This is part and parcel of the Obama administration's attempt to be the most secretive in the history of America. You know, he promised he would be transparent, but he's not. What's going on here is that the EPA is secretly entering into settlement agreements with liberal environmental groups that sue the EPA in an attempt to impose new regulations on the states. And as you suggested, this circumvents the normal process of rulemaking and circumvents the state's authority to decide what the regulations are in their state to comply with the Clean Air Act. So the attorneys general have now filed a lawsuit against the EPA to demand transparency about these otherwise secret agreements the EPA is entering into.
All right, and I know that this goes to a broader issue because you've had other dust-ups with the administration and other ways that you're pushing back. Is it your position that essentially this administration, on a number of levels, is using administrative tools to get things done that they know wouldn't pass on the Hill or that they know states are going to push back against? I think about, you know, the latest move to delay the employer mandate deadline for the health care law.
Well, on that one you just mentioned, of course, the White House is writing new law into Obamacare by circumventing what the legal standard was for what the health care mandate is. The same thing is happening here with the EPA, only in a slightly different way. In order for the EPA to traditionally impose new regulations on the states, they would have to go through the normal rulemaking process and defer to the states. Instead, here what they are doing is entering into these secret settlement agreements with liberal environmental groups like the Sierra Club, and through that process imposing new regulations on states that we have to comply with. And so we're now suing the EPA, demanding this be uncovered. But Shannon, one last thing about this, and that is it shows that the EPA is acting like the IRS with regard to ideology, because the EPA provides this kind of information to liberal groups but denies this kind of information to conservative groups and states.
Well, you mentioned a number of these groups that are involved, the Sierra Club among them, and other environmental activist groups. Is it your suggestion that they're in cahoots with the EPA? I mean, they know what they're doing when they bring these suits, and then if they're settled secretly and you don't have access to them, where does that leave the states?
Well, to coin a legal phrase, yes, they are in cahoots with the EPA, because in one of these instances, the lawsuit was filed on the same day the EPA entered into a settlement agreement with this liberal environmental group. So they are in cahoots together to impose these new regulations on states they would otherwise be unable to impose if they had to go through the normal process that is required by the Clean Air Act.
And I quickly want to ask you, because Texas, of course, in recent weeks has been the scene of a brutal fight and debate over some new abortion restrictions. As the Attorney General there, should that particular law that was passed get here to the Supreme Court with the current makeup of the court, do you believe it will withstand constitutional and legal muster?
Well, and now the new abortion law in the state of Texas goes from the State House to the courthouse, where I will be defending the state of Texas, and I do believe it will go all the way to the Supreme Court. And I believe this law can be upheld by the Supreme Court as being consistent with Roe versus Wade. One, it does do a good job of protecting more innocent life, but Shannon, it also does a good job of protecting the health care of women. If you go back to the Roe versus Wade opinion itself, one of the key components of that opinion was insisting that states have a legitimate interest in ensuring the safety and well-being of the health care of women, ensuring the very stringent standards in accomplishing that goal. We think this does that. It makes women more safe and prevents things like Kermit Gosnell from happening in the state of Texas.
All right, we will keep an eye on that. No doubt that legal battle will be in full-fledged rollout as that law takes effect. We know you'll be busy with that and with your campaign as well. Mr. Attorney General, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Shannon.